Hey everyone, welcome to the I'll Be Living Life podcast. Today I have a special guest by the name of Amy. Amy has some amazing pictures and she's quite the photographer. Give her a follow. She goes by AMRENFUNKE17, and I will be sharing her photos in this episode on YouTube. Well, her and I are actually going to not talk about her pictures today. We're going to talk about something totally different. So we're going to talk about depression and anxiety. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, the honor is mine, actually. So,
That's super cool.
I started following her about 3 years ago on Instagram. I saw one of your posts about depression and anxiety, and I was like, nope, I got to reach out to her. So why don't you give us a little history about depression and anxiety in your world?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess for me, it is definitely a biological thing. I know depression and anxiety can be definitely situational and environmental. But looking back to as far as I can remember and my behavior as a child, that was definitely anxiety, which was passed off as behavioral issues because back then in the 80s, anxiety and depression really wasn't talked about as much
Or on
as
the
it is
radar at
today.
all, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you have a child that acts out, well, they must just be a bratty kid or something. So,
Yeah.
um,
There was no ADHD or anything like that back in the, well, there's probably many cases, but
yeah,
nobody said anything about it, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of continued on until I was old enough to sort of recognize what it was. And I remember having my first panic attack when I was about 13 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And at that point, I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something going on that I needed to kind of figure out. So, getting later into my later teenage years and my early 20s, I started getting into a lot of drugs and alcohol, which obviously contributes
Yeah.
to anxiety and depression big time, but I almost feel like they go kind of hand in hand at some point. I think a lot of people that do suffer from depression and anxiety have probably had their experiences with drugs and alcohol and
Yeah.
addictions.
Mm-hmm.
So then I really started diving into researching what I had, starting to see some doctors, and I saw counselors when I was really young. And yeah, and then it's just now I actually have a handle on it.
Good.
But it's still there. Like even right now, right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
definitely having anxiety.
Well, before we continue on, I just want to say thank you for sharing and trusting me with this. And I hope we bring some awareness to this issue with people. I honestly think, probably going to curse a few times on this
That's okay.
episode.
I probably will too.
And, as fucked up as I think I am at times, I know that everyone's kind of fucked up in a way
Yeah.
and on some level or another. I feel that people just know how to hide it a little bit better. And for me, I really don't give a shit. Like, I'm willing to share anything with my life. I usually very open about my stuff. So I think that helped me where I kind of stopped giving a shit or anything about what people think of me.
You
And
kind of have to.
yeah, and I think that made me grow and it helped. My cases were about 20 years ago. Yeah, I'll definitely share my story after you finish with yours. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's pretty much covers the timeline of things. And now in my life, a lot of it is diving into past traumas and, breaking cycles, breaking bad habits, patterns that really just added to all that. And, there's the stigma about it that people just aren't really educated about what a person with anxiety and depression really, really feels and goes through. It's very easy to try and give some advice to someone that has these mental issues and tell them, oh, well, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? Like maybe it's the caffeine that you're drinking. And yes, those, that contributes. And I know they're trying to help, but it's just
It's
that's what I'm
different.
trying it is, and that's what I'm trying to get away with, and that's what I try and do with some of my posts is
Yep.
just really let people know that no, it's not the cup of coffee I had today. Like
No,
this is
it's not that simple.
no, and when you do have a biological depression and anxiety, you can exercise every day. You can eat super clean.
Yeah.
You can be like I have an amazing life. I have really zero to complain about,
Yeah.
but I struggle to get out of bed almost every single day.
Yeah.
So no, that's not just the cup of coffee I had yesterday, you know. So
Yeah.
that's what I really want to get through to people with these posts, is
Yeah.
just really, really letting people know that it goes a little deeper than that.
Yeah, no, like I said before, you have amazing pictures, and I think that kind of gives a little bit of serenity to people's eyes, right? When I looked at it, like, you know, I was like, wow, these pictures are amazing. So I started following you, and then recently, of course, I read your posts here and there, and I'm like, wow, I like this. Like, I like what, you know, you put it out in the open, right? And I commend you for that. Good job. And
Yeah.
you know, that's something that, you know, people, whether, like I said earlier, whether you want to judge me or not, go for it. Right? Like, this
Yeah.
is something that's out there, and I know everyone deals with it. It's just like I said, they have to, some people just hide it better than others, right? So
And some people just don't want to face things, and that's fine.
yeah.
They're not ready to,
Yeah.
and I am, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm putting out there. And I think, you know, my posts with the dabbling in the nature photography and then posting about mental illnesses and mental health,
Hmm.
there is a connection there for me, because that is one thing that really helps ground me and resets me and energizes me. So, and I haven't gone like full blown into the mental health
Yep.
posts,
Yep.
because I'm still testing the waters with how people are responding to it. And for the most part, the people that do respond, it's all positive. Like, I don't get any negative
Yeah.
feedback,
That's right.
or people just don't say anything at all because they're probably just processing
And
what
wondering
I've
what to say.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the first part of it all is recognizing and feeling and dealing with it head on. I think that's kind of, it works for some, and it worked for me, I think. So my story, and I'll
Yeah.
share a bit of my story. So roughly about 24 years coming up now, my best friend back then passed away from cancer. So I was there with him. I was there beside him on his deathbed, and, you know, in palliative care. I stayed over for 3 nights. Before that, I'm a very strong-minded person. I'm very carefree. I'm very easygoing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, I get this news. Like, the last, I was over in Hong Kong acting at the time, and he came over and visited me. I was there for about 10 months. He came over, visited me, and I noticed a limp in his leg. In his walk, I should say, not his leg. And I was like, hey, you know, Johns, what's going on, right? And he goes, well, you know, I was playing hockey and I fell. And I was like, what? I go, who hit you, man? Like, you know, it's all friends playing, right? So we bump each other, but, you know, we would never. He goes, oh, it was off a face-off. I just fell. I was like, what? Like, it's kind of weird, right? Like, we're, you know, 20s, and, you know, what the heck, right? Like, this doesn't happen to 20-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, I flew back to Vancouver, and here I am, and back home now, and he's still walking with a limp, right? And I remember him calling me all the time. Like, we talked every day. Like, this is a childhood friend of mine since we were like 9 years old, right? So anyways, we talked every day, and next thing you know, he's still telling me that he's getting these night sweats and all this stuff. And, you know, as idiotic 20-something-year-olds, you just don't know.
No.
I'm sorry to say that, but as you age, you kind of take things a little bit more seriously, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and I think in our 20s, we're just oblivious to things, and just, you know, you think you know the world, but you really don't know shit, right?
No.
And anyways, his brother ended up taking him to one of the hospitals, and so I went over there, and, you know, here we are talking and everything, and I was like, yeah, I wonder what's going on, right? And sure enough, like, it comes back and they tell us that he has leukemia and sarcoma. Oh, sorry, sarcoma melanoma mix. There's nothing to do with leukemia there. So it was the same thing that Terry Fox had. And I was like, huh, okay. And then we're talking, like, I was talking to him. I go, hey, man, don't worry about this, right? You got this. Like, look at Mario Lemieux and his battle with, you know, leukemia, and look at him, right? So we're kind of staying on the positives. Again, like, you know, oblivious to shit, right? Like, we're just dumb. And he waited way too long. Like, I mean, from the trip back from when I came back from Hong Kong to here, and when he actually went to the hospital was roughly about 6 months. So he was already living with this stuff. Obviously, the cancer spread throughout his body and it hit every single organ. It hit his liver. It hit, like, he started getting jaundice and everything. And I watched him go through this. So he was a guy that's like typically my size. Back in the day when I was, walking around at 180 pounds, we're both about 5'11", 6 feet. So, we're in great shape. Yeah, athletic and all that stuff. And he had everything going for him, right? So he just got into Transport Canada. He had a girlfriend that he was really, happy about, and graduated with, high marks at SFU. Doing really well. I was so happy for him, right? And then this hit. And then sure enough, like on my birthday's on April Fool's. So on my birthday, he was admitted into palliative care. And then I went in there, and last thing he said was, "Hey, Al," like, he kind of raised his arm and couldn't say anything else, right? And that moment still, resonates with me. But yeah, it was tough, like going through that stuff. And I was the guy, like I was mentioning earlier, I'm the guy that kind of people went to. Like, "Hey, Al, what are we going to do today? Like, what are we going to eat today? What are we going to, what's up? Like, I mean, what do you think about my girlfriend? Or what are you going to, we compare notes, so not notes, but compare, like, how I would deal things, right?
Yeah, you were the go-to guy.
Yeah, so then at times I got sick of it, right? But these are all my friends. We had a really strong bond with a bunch of friends, and I'm still really close to a bunch of them today. And I went into that palliative care, and I remember I was driving in with my girlfriend at that time and going to the hospital to visit, and just thinking, like, what the hell is going on? Like, I couldn't believe this is going on. And then that's the moment when I think I've started feeling this, like, depression, anxiety and stuff.
Really started to set
in. It really hit. Yeah. And then when I went into that palliative care at Vancouver General, I walked in, and it was a very touching moment to see. I had 20 something of my friends in a room, and I looked at them all. And when I walked in that room, everyone turned their eyes on me because I was Johnson's best friend, right?
Yeah.
And for that moment, I can tell you right now, what I felt was I had no fucking answers to anything. Mm-hmm. Like, that was one moment in my life where I was like, I have no answers. What can I say? What can I do? So I crushed down to my knees, and his brother and sister consoled me, right? And I had another buddy of mine hold me up, and I went into the hallways because I just couldn't, bear it, right? And I broke down. And my other best bud, he broke down. And he went down the hall too. So that day, because when somebody said that he's got maximum 3 days to live, and that crushed me. So basically, when he passed on April 5th of 97. And I still remember being next to him, like, when he passed, and I saw that after he passed, he had a smile on his face. So that's kind of one thing for me that, I'm not religious or anything, but, that was one thing for me that I was like, there must be something after this, because he put a smile on his face. He was in such pain, right?
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it.
That's a very bittersweet moment. You were able to be there, but had to witness that, but also got to see him not in pain anymore. I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah, it's and if I wasn't there, I think I'd regret it to this day.
Oh, you would. There's no question. There's no question about that.
Yeah, definitely, like, love the guy. And I felt, and at that moment when he passed, 50% of my well-being left me. I didn't feel strong anymore. I didn't feel like I can do anything. Like, I felt like, why him? Why not me? Like, how come it's not me? Like, he had everything going for him, right? And at that time, I didn't have a whole lot going for me because I was like, whatever, here and there, and just kind of, flake around because I'm in my 20s, right? Yeah. But he definitely had a lot of stuff going for him. And it hit me pretty hard because I think I got the depression from that.
Grief is that's a whole other beast. And
oh yeah,
anyone,
it is.
And if you haven't felt it, if you haven't gone through that, there is no words that can actually describe what. And I've experienced grief and loss myself.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying,
It's hitting.
It is. Oh yeah, it's hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah. Every time I went to like a shopping center or a superstore or whatever, or Safeway, and go into the aisles, I would feel like I'm about to freaking pass out. That was my anxieties. Like the light seems like it was just brighter all of a sudden. And the amount of items on those shelves like freaked me out.
It's sensory overload.
It
Is
is.
what is happening. You're overstimulated by everything, and it just
And
becomes too much.
yeah, and I had to get out. Like, and then all of a sudden it was like in crowds and stuff, right? Like I couldn't handle crowds anymore. I couldn't go into a place that had like 10, 15 people. I was done. I was like, what the hell? I remember telling my best friend and girlfriend, and we were going to movies on the weekends, and I said, I can't. I'm hyperventilating right now. Can you guys line up and just call me when the line goes in, and then I'll just come in and just sit down. And I had to do that every single freaking time.
And this was just after, like, this all
Yeah, like
came
it hit.
about after.
Yeah. Well, I think it started when he was going through his cancer treatments and stuff. And there's something that I really like regret doing. But one day I went to visit him. Like I visit him almost every day when he was going through this. But he started doing the doses at home because I think, and I'm sorry, Nelson, like his brother's probably going to listen into this, but he was going through it at home, and I think they pretty much at that time had nothing they can do for him already. But we were all unaware of it. So he was doing like morphine shots at home and stuff like that. And I remember I found a naturopath for him. So I, was supposed to be a renowned cancer treatment guy. I don't know how legit it was, but I went to his house and I go, hey, Johns, man, let's go. Like, let's set up an appointment, right? Let's see what they can do for you. And he just said, nah, it's all right. And, whatever. And I got mad at him. I actually yelled at him. I go, come on, man, let's go. Right. And then he looked me in the eyes and he said, I can't. And that broke me. Oh my God. Like, what the hell am I doing? This guy is, like I said, we were both around 180 around that time. And he must have been 100 pounds at that time. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm trying to push him, and he's to the point where of no return, right? And I think it was the selfishness of myself and not wanting him to give up. And yeah,
that's natural. That's such a natural thing to want for somebody. And it's not just hard. It's obviously hard on the person that has the disease and is going through this, but it is hard on the people around that love this person as well. And there are so many emotions flying about your body and in your head that I hope you don't carry any guilt for getting mad at him that day, because like that's so natural. That's so normal to happen.
I think as the years went by, well, actually, so right after he passed away, I went and talked to my doctor, and my GP said, I think you're going through depression. I'm going to prescribe you some anti-anxiety medication. And I was like, okay, fine, right? I always felt that I was stronger than that, but whatever. I looked down on myself. I don't give a shit now, right? But I took it, and I took it for 10 months. And I went from being a guy that was 180 pounds to 236 pounds in about 8 months. Yeah. It was crazy. The weight gain was insane, right? One day I woke up and I threw up in my sleep and I choked. And I couldn't catch a breath of air in the middle of the night. I freaked out and stood up and started taking these little gasps of air, and then finally got it out. And the next day, that was the day that I said, fuck this, I'm done. And I grabbed my pills and I chucked them in the garbage can. And I kind of got tired of it. So I kind of just said, that's it. Like, things are going to need to change, right? And I held myself accountable for a lot of stuff at that time. And I just said, that's it. How did I get to this shape? How did I stop like working out? I used to work out every day, and then all of a sudden I just stopped working out, and I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't me at that time, and I gave it up and I chucked my pills away. And I know I'm supposed to wean off that stuff, but I kind of just like, hell with it. What's going to happen to me? I'm in my 20s, right? So again, I'm oblivious to things, right? Yeah. So I just threw my pills away, and just today's the day I start making things better. And I started my workout back again, and I got myself back down to about 200 pounds at that time. I know it took me about a year or so, but I got back into it, and yeah, in those 2 years, like for right after he passed away, the first year of dealing with depression and taking the medication, and then the year afterwards, I think in those 2 years I got to a really, really dark place. Yeah, it wasn't me. Like I was pissed off at things a lot, and got angry and whatever, and felt alone and all this crap. And but I had all the support systems around me. Like I had, really caring people in my life, and it was really like my friends were like top notch, and girlfriend at that time was awesome, and everything was going really well, and finally got back on my feet again, I guess. And the weird thing is, like 5 years ago, when I went with my other two closest friends, and we were in Vegas, we had a high end dinner, and we're sitting there, and I was telling them about the same story, right? And one of my friends were in that palliative care as well, and he's the other one that broke down. Here I am talking about it, and I broke down like at the dinner table, and I was like, sorry guys, man, like, I wasn't like super sad or anything, but it just hit me. Something hit me. I teared up and everything. And I go, hey guys, sorry man, like I'm being a wimp here or something. And they're like, no, it's just because you care. And of course my other buddy starts tearing up too. Pretty strong guys that were all like 6 feet tall, and pretty, solid people and strong minded and what that. But no, it happened to us. And I just said that I think what hit me there was that if he was here today, he would have been sitting at this table with us. And I think those were like, my closest friends, right? And I know he would have been there. There's another story around this, and I finally let go of something. Like I said, I don't care about what I share with people. I don't care if you call me crazy, go for it. Merry Christmas to you, or happy birthday to you, whatever, right? You want to do it. But I saw a medium like about 3 years ago, and it was pretty cool. Like she told me things that no one knows. Pretty amazing. Like
that's so right up my alley too. So.
yeah.
Oh,
So this is an amazing lady. I'm actually going to reach out to her and see if she was willing to join me on a podcast. But
that would be amazing, and I'm actually going to get her contact info once we're done here.
Oh, she does stuff for the FBI. Like she's stationed in Philadelphia, but she's really, really like blew me out of the water.
That's awesome.
When I reached out to her, I went to meet her because she was in town for a convention or something like that. And when I went to see her, she's like, oh, I see a lot of sadness, right? And I was like, whoa, what the hell? Like, I feel okay.
Yeah.
And but then, you know what? When she said that, I was like, man, shit, like deep down inside, there is, right? And then she goes, oh, there's someone coming through. It's a young gentleman. And I was like, so I didn't say anything, right? And I was like, okay. I go, I wonder who that is, right? He goes, it's your friend. And he just wants to thank you for like always going to pick him up, even no matter how busy he was studying for SFU or at school.
Oh my God.
You would always pick him up. You guys would always go have smokes or whatever, or have drinks somewhere. Back then I smoked. And then I was like, wow, okay. And I know I was the only one that did that, right?
Yeah.
And then she said to me one thing that blew me like out of this water, right? She goes, he wants to thank you. Did you name your first child after him? I was like, the hell?
Did you?
Well, I didn't name him Johnson, but I named him, like, because if I named him Johnson, actually my parents would have flipped out on me, right? Because they believe in that, like, oh, it's a omen or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Super, like, superstitious, right? So I didn't want to name him that. So I named my kid Tyson, and it was a tie to Johnson. So I figured Tyson's going to be the best name for him, right? So
there was that... underlying intention there. Oh my God, I am getting goosebumps right now.
And no one knows that, like no one except for the wife and the family, right? And I was like, how the hell did she know that? Like I never told anybody, and like I told my closest friends, but that was it. And I was like, she has no relationship with any of my friends, right?
And that right there probably helped you
heal.
Like, those are those comforting things. Like when my grandmother passed away, she was the woman that raised me. She's
I saw your butterfly, by the way.
Yeah, it hasn't even been 2 years, and that was my mom. Losing her rocked my world. Yeah. So I'm still very much in the grief process. Like it's a wild ride, that's for sure.
Oh
And
yeah.
I am a very spiritual person, and I had a pretty healthy outlook on death and the afterlife. And,
Mm-hmm.
I really believed, because I've actually had a lot of people pass away in my life, like
Yeah, me too.
too many to even like really keep track of, which sounds really awful, but
Yeah.
I never was like, I've had friends commit suicide,
Mm-hmm.
quite a few actually, but I always handled it well.
Mm-hmm.
But then when my Oma passed away, and I'm not religious either at all whatsoever,
Yeah.
but I lost all my faith, I guess, for
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better word. All my spirituality was gone. I didn't believe in anything. I was just like, why are we even here? Like, I started questioning
That sounds familiar.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what's the point of life? Like, you just, like, yeah, you have some really awesome moments, but then you just fucking die. Like,
Yeah, I know, and that's it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was an unexpected death too, which was even like, I mean, any death, any loss is awful, but when
Mm-hmm.
you're just not expecting it and you expect to have more time with this person, and yeah, it just,
Yeah.
so those little things, like seeing a medium, and even if no one else believes it, whatever helps you believe again and just
Yeah.
heal and have some kind of faith in something,
Yep.
that's all that matters. And I started dreaming about I still dream about her very frequently.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
to
thing.
me, oh yeah, and to me, that's kind of restored my faith in that she's
Awesome.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm still sad all the time.
Yep.
And being someone with depression,
It doesn't
that's
help.
another, that's another layer that, like, I honestly don't even know how I got through that time.
Oh, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I was also dealing with an injury that I didn't walk for 4 months.
Yeah, I saw that. You were posting that up too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that, the past couple of years for me have been just like a real test of what I'm actually capable of pulling myself through. And I have, but I still get those moments in my depression and in my anxiety where I still question everything, and I wonder if I'm ever going to be 100% happy again
Mm-hmm.
after losing someone that, like, was your world.
Yep.
And then it creates even more thoughts, like anxious thoughts of, I still do have my mom and my dad and my stepdad and like
Mm-hmm.
my aunt. Like, I'm going to have to go through that again
Yeah.
multiple
Oh
times.
yeah.
And like, you better get a good grip on death and loss and dealing with it, because it's going to happen again.
Yeah,
So
it is.
those thoughts have really been something that have affected me big time.
Well, I'm proud of you for battling through it.
I am. And when you say battling through it, like, I mean, it's really a battle. Like, I
Yeah.
actually get into fights with my parents because of it, because I'm so terrified of something happening to them. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's creating rifts, and that's not what I want, because I want to enjoy my time with them instead of creating rifts in our relationships.
Yep.
And there's just so many things I'm navigating right now that, and then there's COVID on top of everything. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
oh my God. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a lot. And it honestly, a wonder how I get out and do anything. So I guess another thing behind my post is what it took for me to even get outside to take those photos.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, those are invaluable to me,
Well,
because those moments, because
yeah.
I don't think anyone really realizes the struggle that I went through to pull myself out of bed, like I said earlier. So just listening to your story really hits home with the grief. And
Yep. Well, I'm happy and thankful that you're sharing this and joining me and battling this together.
Yeah.
And bringing awareness. And I think things can turn around. It's just a matter of time and how. Everyone deals with it differently, and there's no right or wrong way to it, I believe.
No.
Definitely, I'm proud of you for getting through it and still going through it. And
Yeah.
that when
And
I, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
proud of you as well. Sorry to
Yeah,
cut you off.
no, that's okay. Thank you. When I met that medium, and when she said that my friend said, you need to let go. It's not my fault. That, like, I felt this weight lift off me. Like, it was insane. And I was a skeptic. Like, I'm not like, and no disrespect to religion or anything. Like, I respect everyone that has a religion. Like, and I, I will never down one. But definitely, like, I believe in something afterwards. I just don't have a religion, right?
Yeah, you
And
don't have a set of rules of
yeah,
what beliefs you're supposed to follow.
I think they all speak to the same thing, sort of. I think just interpreted in different ways. That's all, just to make people understand. That's me, anyways, is what I feel. But anyways, after meeting that medium, I just felt that weight lifted off. I started feeling back to myself again, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm like, yeah, that was a few years ago, and I feel pretty damn good now. So,
I
yeah,
have some questions for you.
yeah, go for it.
So, when you were in that depression,
Hmm.
do you think that if you didn't take the medication that you would have still bounced back when you did?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't, because I think maybe I might have bounced back, but what woke me up was me choking,
exactly.
and what woke me up was me gaining all that weight, and I've always been in shape all my life, to being, someone that's like full of fat, and
Yeah,
I don't know, it maybe actually
yeah.
maybe that helped in a roundabout way, where it didn't help me. Well, I guess it helped me, like, I was able to go to theaters and watch movies with then
So,
my girlfriend and friends and stuff like that. I wasn't
yeah.
so anxious at going shopping. Like, it might have helped, but I was still getting those kind of hyperventilations and anxieties, but just not as often, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely when I took that thing, I shook it off, and yeah, I think in a roundabout way, I guess it did help me. And
It contributes to your story for sure. And
yeah,
the only reason why I ask is because there is a history of mental illness in my family,
hmm,
and I actually watched my aunt. She was bipolar, and she was really bad,
yeah,
and she took medication, and then the kind of the same thing happened to her. Like, it calmed her down, and again, for a lack of a better term, it made her less crazy,
yeah,
but she gained a bunch of weight and she didn't do anything. Like, she didn't leave her couch, and
yeah,
it just made her lethargic. And
yes,
so for me, I have a few medications that, like, I take Ativan every once in a while when I'm
hmm,
feeling super anxious, and
yeah,
that actually has an interesting part of a story that does relate to this. I actually tried committing suicide at one point in my life.
oh
In
no,
my early 30s,
yeah,
I was in a very abusive relationship. This person was abusive in every way you could possibly imagine,
yeah,
emotionally, physically, sexually. Anyways,
that's
so at
brutal.
that point, I did abuse my Ativan, and I swallowed probably about 10 of them at once.
Yeah,
And it wasn't a cry for help. It was because I didn't like leave a note or
yeah,
text anybody.
yeah,
Excuse me. And it didn't work, thank God.
yeah,
And I just
yeah,
ended
no
up
kidding.
really fucked up for like
Yeah,
3 days. So I would never do that again. And I think also once you hit that point, there's a whole other level of like mindset that kind of comes into play with that, where
yeah,
what really snapped me out of that was thinking about my parents finding me and
yeah,
what it would do to them. And
yeah,
like, that's a really grim thought. And I would never do that. So,
good.
do I still have those thoughts? 100%. There are
Yeah,
definitely times where I'm like, you know what? It would just be easier if I didn't have to deal with any of this. But then, that's a selfish thing. And
yeah,
I am not a selfish person in that sense. So I would never do that. But now I am on a medication where it does help me sleep, and it just kind of chills me out throughout the day.
mm-hmm,
So I take it at bedtime every night. It helps me sleep, which I wasn't sleeping. Like, my
yeah,
doctor asked me, "How's your sleep?" And I just laughed because I was like, "What sleep?"
yeah,
And so she gave me something that's pretty low dose, and it has been working. And like, I was the same. Like, I didn't want to ever take medication because I thought that my lifestyle, and I'm active, I eat healthy, I get
mm-hmm,
outside, I have good family and everything, that those were enough. But it just wasn't. And my
Yeah.
biggest fear was, yeah, becoming lethargic, like having zero motivation to do anything. But when I decided to actually go on these, I was thinking, well, I don't have any motivation anyways because I'm always so fucking tired because I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping. So
Yeah.
let's give them a go, and just be very hyper aware of
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing to you. And so far so good. And
Good.
I had to break that stigma of like, oh, if you're on medication, then you've kind of last resort. And I guess it kind of was a last resort, but I am always curious to hear about other people's experiences with medications because, like you said, everyone deals with things differently. Their
Yep.
bodies respond differently.
Yep.
So,
My other best bud there, he's still on it right now,
mhm.
as 20 something years ago. And yeah, he's still on it, and he tried to wean himself off, and it didn't work.
Yeah,
It actually, fucked him up pretty good too.
yeah,
He's a strong-minded guy, and lots of respect to him too. And I love the guy, but he dealt with it with that way, and I dealt with it a different way. So there's no right or wrong way to it.
no,
And
yeah,
thank you for sharing your story. And thank goodness it didn't work.
yeah,
Definitely. If I know you know me from no one, you know me from this interview, and you know me from my pictures. But if you ever think of anything like that, please reach out to me.
absolutely. And that goes the same to you or anyone, like anyone listening. If they do end up following me, you don't even have to follow me.
Yeah.
If anyone ever needs just someone to vent to, like talking about
Yeah.
stuff really helps.
Yes.
Like it's the one thing that actually helps me the most. So I promote people to reach out when they need help
Mm-hmm.
so much, but I'm the worst for it because, I understand the mindset behind that. Like you
Yeah.
feel like a burden, you feel like a downer, and no one wants to feel like that on top of feeling shitty already.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but honestly, like it helps so much.
It
So
does.
anyone that's listening that has any like depression or anything right now, like honestly, just
Either one of us.
yeah, we're here.
We're
We're here for you.
here. Yeah. Yeah. I'm fortunately lucky to be in the place I am right now. I feel like I'm 99% back to who I was before. And
That's great.
yeah, it's good. And I don't know if it's just my nature or if it's something that, because I went through it or whatever, but
Hmm.
I've seen people post up things on Instagram or Facebook, which I don't even use anymore.
Yeah.
But Instagram, when I see people like saying stuff, like I've actually reached out to a few people and just messaged them and go, "You okay? Like I know you don't
Yeah.
know me, but are you
Yeah.
okay? And do you need an ear? I'm an unbiased ear, so
Yeah.
if you need a ear just to vent, go for it." And honestly, I in the 3 years that I've been on Instagram, I probably reached out to, I don't know, I'd say less than 10, but around
Mhm.
there. Honestly, maybe only one person has responded by telling me their story.
Yeah. And you know what? At that point, it's not even a numbers thing. If you can help even just one person,
Yes.
that's such a huge thing
Yeah.
because, yeah,
Yeah.
they don't know you, and the fact that they've trusted you and opened up like that, and that to me, like, I don't give a shit about how many followers I have. Like, I don't care about if you don't like my photos, that's totally fine. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
out there to like gain Insta stardom or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
if I know that I'm helping people, even just one person out of, the 500 that watch my story, if one person gets something out of one of these posts that I put up there, then like my day is made.
Well, you got my eyes on it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing is just like how many people have actually reached out to me and been like, "Hey,
Yeah.
me too. Like I thank you for posting this
Yeah.
and thank you for asking, thank you for listening." And
Yeah.
um
And thank you for
and
sharing.
yeah, and I just wanted to say one thing about when you were telling your story about how you were sitting around the table with your buddies and you broke down and you apologized.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, and that's another thing I'm trying to get away from with my posts is that like we don't apologize when we laugh at something.
Mm-hmm.
So why should we apologize when we cry about something?
Yeah.
It's okay to have those emotions and it's okay to show them, and you're not like a pussy or a wuss or
Yeah.
whatever if you show those. And I like that's another thing I really promote too is like, yeah, because suicide rates are higher in men
Yeah,
as well.
you're absolutely right. Because both my best buds there just said, nope, it just shows you care, man.
Yeah,
And that's it. And I was like, that right away, that felt like a big hug from the bros, right?
exactly.
And my other buddy started tearing a bit too. And again, it was a moment. It was actually a brotherly moment, and and I don't regret it. And definitely, you're absolutely right. You don't need to apologize to show your feelings.
No, never.
And that's it. If you're sad, you're sad. And like I said, after that day, that was like 5 years ago, and then I met that medium about 3 years ago. After the 3 years thing, that the whole sadness just went away. And I think that's when I started to say, I really don't give a fuck what people think of me. Like,
Yeah,
and that's what kind of why I wanted to start this podcast. Like, what I really care about is I really want to care about helping people and helping, trying to be, the best person I can be. Like, this is me. Whether you like it or not, like you said, if you don't like my photos, piss off. I don't really care. If you don't like my podcast, don't follow me, don't listen to me. And
exactly.
but if you if it hits home for you, then by all means, for the support, I need your support, so keep me going. But
Definitely.
Amy, it was a great chat today. Again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you were willing to jump on this podcast with me.
Oh, my
I
pleasure.
it really hit me when I saw you being brave and posting stuff like that. I was like, good for you. I need to reach out to you, and keep up the great pics. I'm going to share this. I have like about 25, 30 of your pics, and that's just the tip of the iceberg sort of thing. Great pictures. I mean, seriously, you have some great pictures. And I just want to say to other people out there who have depression and anxiety or went through it or going through it, and you feel that no one understands, you're really not alone out there. Again, both Amy and I, you can find us on our Instagram. You could send me a message, a DM. You could send her a DM. Like, if you're ever thinking or that you just want to vent or you just want an unbiased ear, reach out to us. I
Yep.
mean, her handle is AMRENFUNKE 17 on Instagram. I'll post her thing on our YouTube as well. And again, Amy, truly thank you for sharing this, and thank you for being a part of my story.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I'm really honored that you invited me to be a guest on the show, and I just appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So for all the people out there, if you can do me a quick favor and hit subscribe and like button if you like the episode, and give me a follow, and I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks.